Okay, so now that I've beaten Ultimate Up Z with every ability on Wild Mode at their best, I think now's a good time that I can actually make a tier list out of this. So this is going to be a tier list based on my thoughts on how each and every ability does in Ultimate Up Z. This is only contributing to that. So no exploration, because like if it was based on exploration or just in general, some of these ability opinions would pretty much be shifted around. But this is exclusively for Ultimate Cup Z. So let's get the first and the last one out of the way right now. So at the bottom, never actually seen Z Cup in Cup Z. We got Deep Sleep and Sleep. I actually never seen these two in the ability lineup for Ultimate Cup Z, and it makes sense when you think about it. It's the hardest arena. They don't want actual free healing. You can actually bring Deep Sleep with you, since it's like you can bring Deep Sleep with you, and you'll get the power boost, either power boost, life boost, or speed boost. But they will call you out on it, and the whole point was that no, we're not doing this with powers. Even though that most of the runs, it said that I had life up. I found out the reason why also. It was a stupid reason, but all the runs are actually legit. And then Sleep, you literally can't get out of the room. Yeah. And then, in unironically broken as hell, we got Meta Knight. I'm sorry, not Meta Knight. Mask Hammer Sword and Morphinite Sword. These two were specifically made to be fucking broken as hell. Mask Hammer is so powerful, and Morphinite Sword is just a definition of utility. Mask Hammer in particular, like, it's pretty strong. Like, compared to the other hammers, it actually has weaker hits, but the thing is that when you stack up all the hits together, it does a lot of damage, and you can also move a lot more by comparison when using Hammer Flip. So, yeah, this thing is just way too good. And then Morphinite Sword. Way too many charge moves, way too many good moves. It has like an actual projectile charge. Like a homing projectile, which is bullshit. Yeah, no, I think these two abilities definitely deserve their top spot. And I don't think anyone should be surprised about it. Alright. Let's start from the bottom. So Let's do it from the worst to the best, like in a tier. So at the bottom, at F tier, these three abilities are completely interchangeable. Drill, Pencil Drill, and Twin Drill. These are actual fucking gutter trash. I am sorry. They were, in my opinion, these are good for exploration, but these abilities were not made for combat. You get some good stuff out of it, but the thing is that it's really hard to actually get damage off with these abilities without getting hit yourself. On top of that, being underground is more of a hindrance than a help, because every single boss, and I mean literally every boss, has some attack that can hit you from underground, which is stupid. There are very few fights or very few attacks that can use Drill, and Drill also pretty much has like one of the worst counterattacks. Why are they all the same? Because they all fundamentally do the same thing. It doesn't matter if like if Twin Drill and Pencil Drill have more things to work with. It doesn't matter if all that stuff is garbage to begin with the base kit. So yeah, all the drills are pretty much down in F tier. Let's see. Next up, we got Gigant Sword. Gigant Sword is topping off the F tier. I originally put Gigant Sword below Drills, like below Twin Drill, but that was before I actually did the rest of the drill runs. The thing about Gigant Sword is that it's the only ability that actually cannot abuse the slowdown from dodging, because it cannot dodge. It has a unique, Gigant Sword has a unique guard which puts up a spiked shield in front of you. It makes you immune to damage, yes, but that's about it. That's actually literally it. You can't do the cool things that Ice does, or even just normal Kirby stuff. you'll never be able to slow down an opponent. The charge attack's okay. That's probably like the one good thing about it, but it's kind of slow to charge for some reason. Like, it looks bad compared to the Morphinite's level 3 charge. But yeah, on top of that, it should be expected, but this thing is slow. All but one of its attacks are actually pretty slow. The only good move out of shield is the sword slide, or whatever the fuck they're calling it. That's like the fastest thing, and if you ever use any of your normal attacks, you will get hit, your ass can be punished. So yeah, no, this thing's F tier for sure. Alright, we're moving on to E tier. I wasn't sure about these placements, and I'm still not entirely too sold on them just yet, like which one's better than the other, but first up we got Chakram Cutter. Chakram Cutter is, well, the thing about Cutter and Bomb as a whole is that they're more of they're trapping abilities in a sense. Like you benefit from the most damage from trapping. You throw them out, you let it charge, but the thing is that you have to go behind the opponent or something, or jump over your cutters, and then whack him. But the reason why Chakram Cutter is here is because, from my experience, two chakrams means more button mashing, and the thing is that like it's not two chakrams. I think the damage is split between the two chakram cutters, so you end up dealing less damage if only one of them actually hits. Also, yeah, distance actually matters from this one. If you throw them in different areas, and you go somewhere behind the opponent, one of them might just straight up miss, just straight up. It's an okay ability, which is why it's not F tier, but it's not a good ability either. Next up, we got, where is it? Here it is, Homing Bomb. Why the fuck did I put this back here? Why is it over there? Anyways, Homing Bomb. Homing Bomb is between all the bombs, it's actual fucking garbage. Like, if it was just Homing Bomb, that would be good. If it was a better Chain Bomb, then that would be good. But the problem is that by combining it two aspects, it's not a good ability at all. For one, the homing is actually kind of bad. Especially on like tiny ass bosses like Meta Knight, Morphinite, etc, etc. The type, and also Arena matters when using homing bombs, especially because for some reason all the bombs that you throw can commit suicide and jump off the cliff. I'm not even kidding. And if they don't find anything, they just go in a straight line. If they track something, then that's fine, except that in the case bomb in general, any attack from an enemy, like whether it's their actual bodies, an actual like disjointed hitbox, or a projectile, they will blow them up. And the problem with homing bomb is that like, actually this is a problem. This is the thing with all the bombs. All the bombs can blow themselves up, which in some cases I guess it's okay, but most of the time it's not a good thing. So yeah. Homing bomb in particular is like, you don't want the bombs to move around so you can get the most damage out of them. And the problem, and this will come up later when I talk about Chain Bomb, but it's like when one gets hit and linked up, then the rest of them blow up as well. Like regardless of like whether you wanted them to blow up or not. So that sucks. And yeah, that's E tier in a nutshell. All right. Moving on to D tier, we got another tie. These two are interchangeable, but Frosty Ice and Ice are leading D tier, are going to start D tier. Ice, the thing about Ice from the last run, Ice kind of revolt. Ice being good or not depends on if you can land the deep freeze effect. I don't know what to call it. I'm just going, and I keep calling it something different, but just know that right now I'm talking about the deep freeze, the frozen thingy. When you freeze a boss, it slows them down, etc, etc, that thing. The thing about it is that when it comes to, it might be good in like Ultimate Cup or Meta Knight Cup even, but when it comes to Ultimate Cup, a lot of the bosses move and jump around so fast, and every single time a boss does a natural move or something, like movement option, they thaw out the ice either completely or just a bit or something, and that's one, that's stupid, and two, it means that you're going to have a hard time actually landing the deep freeze on them. It says a lot when the only boss that you can reliably freeze is Phantom Tropic Woods, and that is it. These two are about the same thing, because like the snowmen are cool, but they don't actually impact anything about Frosty Ice. But yeah, another reason why they're pretty low is because of their guard. Their guard is okay. It's like Gigant Sword, where what is it? You're completely immune to damage. Only in this case, you can't actually deal damage to anything from you. But the thing about... Okay, well, here's the thing. Is it good? Is the Ice Guard good? Kinda. But like, believe it or not, Ice can actually inflict slowdown, like the slowdown dodge. But the command works a bit differently compared to other copy abilities, where in those cases you have to, what's it called? You literally just dodge a close hit attack at the last second or something, and that's slowdown, blah blah blah. But when it comes to doing it out of Ice Guard, you actually have to do like the perfect shield mechanic from Smash Ultimate, where you have to release while holding a direction, mind you. Yep, you have to hold a direction and release, and you do this little spin thing. And then that's how you get the slowdown dodge on ice, which is, one, cool, but two, not that practical. If anything, the thing I noticed is that your slowdown still gets you hit by shockwave-like attacks or something, which is, ugh. But yeah, what was next? These two are also interchangeable. Chain Bomb and Bomb. Oh, right, going back to the ice thing real fast, the thing about ice is that outside of the freeze, they don't do much damage themselves. Even at max power, they barely do damage. It says a lot why my ice run is significantly longer compared to. Give me a sec. Yeah, it says a lot as far as like why the hell is ice so much slower compared to drill, and that says a lot because I don't. I thought drill was gonna be my worst run, but no, like my slowest run, but no. Ice definitely beats it out. And then we got Chain Bomb and Bomb. These two, you can interchange these two at the top of D tier. Because the one plus is that they don't home. That's a good thing, ironically. Chain Bomb is like, okay. You can still stack them for damage, but at least like you can dictate how much damage you want to deal. The one thing I noticed when it comes to Chain Bomb and Homing Bomb, though, is that, like, if you want to chain a bomb to others, the bomb itself has to leave your hand. If it doesn't leave your hand, it actually can't chain to other bombs. So, like, if you're up close or like, set up for a counter or something, you actually cannot... You can't deal the extra damage from chaining them. That's the reason, like, Bomb is here, because Bomb doesn't care about extra damage, it just does what it wants and all that crap. So yeah, I personally think that Chain Bomb and Bomb are so much easier to use than Homing Bomb. Alright, moving on to C tier, we got Blizzard Ice. Blizzard Ice is more or less the same thing as, what is it? It's the same thing as Frosty Ice and regular Ice, it's only that it has better range, and that's about it. I don't think there's really much to talk about this one. The guard is still the same, only has little spikes or something. So I guess you can counterattack, like not counter. I guess you can just like block and physical enemies will take some damage. I guess it's kind of like the Dragon Sword Shield or something. But yeah, there's none really special to say about Ice. But Ice does have more range than these two, which is why this does rank higher than the other Ices. Moving on from there, we got Base Tornado, actually. Tornado is a pretty gimmicky-ass ability. And Tornado is the worst of the three Tornadoes, but it can't go any lower than C tier because the thing about Tornado is that, like, it can pick up all the stars. This actually marks the first of the can pick up projectile and stars abilities. And I don't know why, like, I don't know the full info on it, but like, whenever you pick up stars, in Tornado's case, and for basic Tornado, you hit the button, you end the move early, all of them just orbit around you for a while, and it does a lot of damage. So the more stars you get, the more hits you land, and the more damage you deal. On top of that, you can also deal, you can also, because you hover in the same spot, you can use it to like deal hits and avoid attacks from, like, let's say, all of the arm attacks that Goromando does, for example. Any and all of the swipes, the staff, the spear slashes that Chaos Ephelis does. You know, stuff like that, etc, etc. The only downside is that, well, I'll talk about this downside when we get to a later Tornado. Moving on, we got another one that we can pretty much like mix and match. We got both Crashes. Crash used to be actually higher in this list, but I don't think you can. But like when it comes to the Ultimate Cup Z, the one-time use obviously hurts, but most of the time also you also can't just one-shot a boss. The only boss that you can realistically one-shot is probably just Goromando, and that's it. Everything else actually has an HP threshold. Yes, normally the HP threshold is something that you can... The HP threshold is something that you can normally one or two shot with a star shot, but other than that, no. Also, some bosses can literally just avoid the attack. I remember I had a run not that long ago where I used Crash against a Meta Knight, and Meta Knight just avoided the attack, and he was like point blank also, so... Yeah, I honestly feel like ranking this one lower, but for now it'll just stay pure for the massive damage it deals. Also, when it comes to bosses with additional phases, like Silly Mondo, for example, Silly Dillo, you're not bypassing that phase no matter what you do. Anyways, moving on, we got another tie. Buzzsaw Cutter and Regular Cutter. They both more or less do the same thing. They're easier to control than Chakra Cutter, which is why they're that much higher. They both kind of do the same thing. Where like they play the same way, where they both want to throw, they want to charge, they want to run away to behind the opponent, let loose, final Cutter during it, I don't know. Cutter in general, just like in this game in particular, I feel like Cutter got more nerfed than buffed. Because yes, while the Return Cutter is cool, the problem is that whenever you do a Final Cutter, like a Return Cutter into Final Cutter combo or something, I think there's like a stash of cutters that you're allowed to have at once or something. I don't know if that's true or not, but I noticed that in all the runs, every single time I use that specific combo, I can't seem to throw or use any more cutters. Like, I'm actually just throwing nothing. I'm doing a throwing animation, but nothing is in hand. So yeah, if we weren't limited on how many we can have out, this would probably be like a B tier item. B tier ability. But for now, it's just down here. After that, we got the first of the hammers, Wild Hammer. Well, Hammer in general is actually stupid powerful in this game, but when it comes to Wild Hammer, it actually does kind of bad as a tier 3, because it has the power, that's for sure. But this hammer in particular also has like the slowest frame data out of all of them. It's so slow, like good luck actually landing hammer flips with this thing, and that's like the best move this thing has also, because all of its moves are just as slow. It's still a good ability though, and its damage potential alone makes it rank at least C at minimum. You can't go any lower when you can pretty much like one-shot bosses in the next phase. After that, we got Volcano Fire. This is a personal thing for me, but I thought using Volcano Fire felt a lot worse compared to using regular fire and Dragon Fire. It mainly comes down to the volcanic rocks. Unlike Dragon's Fire and the regular fire, where it's like it's just a breath of fire. Volcano Fire is like a spew of projectile rocks, and that's sometimes I feel like I just miss. It feels like I'm just missing at times. It's kind of like that because like there's like a when you fire the volcano rocks, it spreads out, kinda. Not much, but it's kind of noticeable at some times. But again, just like the hammer situation, because of specific attributes regarding the fire, it can't go any lower than C. Afterburn is actually so stupid good. So yeah, and then topping off the list, topping off C tier, we got Base Sword. There we go. Base Sword. It's got stuff to work with. It's got nothing bad, but not anything too superb either. It has Spin Slash, which is good damage. You can move, you can jump, blah blah blah. Yeah, fast attacks, that's good. You have, what is it, Sword Slide, Upward Slash, and Sword Dive. That combo, that does a lot of damage. You got the Aerial Spin, that's pretty good at times also. It's not bad ability. It's not bad ability. It's probably like the most consistent ability, if we're being completely honest. And yeah, that's C tier. B tier, there isn't really much. We got Nurtai, Storm Tornado, and Flare Tornado. Regarding these two, I consider the same way, because they both kind of do some cool things each. That like, it's comparable to each other. So in Flare Tornado, it's essentially Base Tornado but better. That's it. Also, there's this one friggin', what is it? I saw a data mine and they're like, oh, there was like Swan Pose. I don't know if Swan Pose actually like avoids attacks or something. I'm not entirely sure, but it does damage, and I accidentally used it. I guess it works if you got nothing to do. But other than that, though, it's better than Base Tornado because it keeps the same properties, and it feels like the range is a bit bigger also. But for Storm Tornado, it has, unlike Flare and Base Tornado, when you pick up Tornado, like when you pick up stars with Storm Tornado, it doesn't cycle around if you end the attack early. It supercharges them because you do a spark attack when you end Tornado early for Storm Tornado. It charges all the projectiles you picked up and just turns them into homing attacks or something. So it's really good against some bosses that just keep running away from you. There's also the thing that because the tornado itself is bigger, which means that if you jump, which I do a lot in, like, let's say versus Meta Knight, Phantom Meta Knight, if you jump, you can actually hit him, which is not something you're able to do with the other tornadoes. So yeah. And then last ending B tier is Base Needle. Needle is the other ability that can grab stars, and yeah, no, it does a lot of damage. Stars in this game do so much damage, but you can also spam Needle, like the Needle attack. Needle, I'll talk about Claire Needle later, but Base Needle and Claire Needle, you can spam their attacks so fast, but it doesn't actually. But unlike Claire Needle, it doesn't actually help Base Needle all that well. I think Base Needle is just forced to use compared to, like, the best tool that Needle has, in my opinion, is just jumping while the Needle's out. You can't really do too much. Well, it's not that you can't, but it's better just to spam for Clutter and Crystal Needle. So, like, it just lacks the projectile usage in a sense. Still, Base Needle is actually pretty good. Grabbing stars, it can't go lower than B. It's pretty good. Moving on to A tier, we got Base Fire. So Base Fire, I found better than Volcano Fire. For one, for some reason, this does so, like, at max upgrades, this does so much unnecessary damage. Like, the data mine, like, according to the data mine, this does, like, the multiplier on this thing is a lot higher compared to max power Dragon Fire and Volcano Fire. The only actual issue is the range. But yeah, I also like the burn attack on this one better for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why, but yeah, this one's up here solely because of power and afterburn. Like, afterburn plus the power this thing has. It's also a fire breath, which I mentioned already in Volcano Fire, but it has no spread, like no differing spread. So after that, we got Nurtai, Crystal Needle, and Clutter Needle. You can interchange these two around. Clutter Needle is essentially Base Needle, but better, because whenever you release Clutter Needle, it spews out, like, junk, and every single time you release it, it despawns the junk for the new one, but, like, if you're constantly hitting the boss with it, that's a different story altogether. That's like a lot of damage that can just stack up. And then you can still steal the stars and throw them. Crystal Needle is actually slower when it comes to the spam attack, but you do have a more reliable projectile. And you also stay in the needle form longer, I'm pretty sure. So what, that's more time to pick up stars and shit. All of them can pick up stars pretty good. They all utilize stars pretty good. And that's all I gotta say. But regarding both Needle and Tornado, all 6 of them are kind of finicky to wield at times. Like, Tornado is always going to have, like, the weird movement. Needle, you slow down at times if you're not hitting anything, so there's that. Still, it's pretty good. Alright, moving on. Base Hammer. Base Hammer is just... it's hammer. It's good. It's kind of... at its best potential, it's actually weaker than Toy Hammer. But it has but it's weaker than Wild Hammer also. I think Wild Hammer and Toy Hammer have the same at their best. But compared to Wild Hammer, Base Hammer has better frame data, so there's that. I'll talk about Toy Hammer later, but there are some moves that I personally feel like regular Hammer does better than Toy Hammer. But yeah. If you're able to get hammer flips off, that's a big deal, especially the full charge ones. Because most bosses do not want to be taking them. And then topping off H, we got Dragonfire. Dragonfire is weaker than Base Fire, power-wise, but it's got significantly longer range. And that's all there is to it. The range actually does help in some cases, in most cases actually. And the Afterburn is always good. Like I said, it's hard to put anything fire below average because of the Afterburn effect alone. Because Afterburn, in my opinion, it's better than Freeze. You're more likely to land that coverage to just freezing your opponents. And then last but not least, we got S tier. This is like the best of the best, from what I noticed. So at the bottom of S tier, we got a three-way tie with literally every single Ranger. The reason why, the big reason why Ranger's up here is because is mainly because of the counterattack. Ranger's counterattack is probably, as far as usage, like utility is concerned, it's the best one. There's no questions about it. It might not have the power of Hammer, and it might not have the speed of Sword, but but you can essentially shoot it from literally anywhere. And whenever you do the counterattack for a Ranger, you can do 3 shots, and it'll auto target towards the boss most of the time. There's a few times where it just doesn't do that for some reason. I'm looking at you, Chaos Ephilis. But other than that, though, it's pretty good. Because the order actually, yeah, I still don't know an entirely good order for this, because what makes or breaks them is the charge shots. So in the case of Space Ranger, the charge shot does a lot of damage, and it also has the linger. It deals damage over time. Well, that's not entirely correct. It just does like continuous damage as long as enemies are in the range of the big blast. But the problem is that out of the 3 Rangers, this thing takes so long to charge by comparison, and if you have the giant ball out, the charge speed is actually so much slower until that ball goes away. So you can never have 2 of the big balls on the field at the same time. It's kind of stupid, but whatever. But I put Space Ranger up here because, what is it? Space Ranger's above the other 2 because it just has better general moves. The Aerial B is actually pretty good in some scenarios compared to the other 2 as well. Basic Shot does more, I'm pretty sure. But yeah. For Base Ranger, faster charge. Well, actually, no, let's talk about Noble Ranger first. Noble Ranger has a pretty good charge shot. And like, it's actually good for some bosses that the other Rangers can normally not hit as effectively. Tropic Woods and Phantom DD. But the reason why I put it at the bottom of the Rangers list is because the charge attack takes so long to come out. It has it has the same charge time as Ranger, and it has a shorter charge time than Space Ranger. But when it comes to attack length, Yeah, no. Ranger, Noble Ranger eats so much shit when it comes to that. It takes so long for the attack to come out. It does damage, yes. But, like, if you're fighting a teleporting opponent who just teleports in the middle of it, or, like, stuff like that, yeah, there's also a chance that, like, they can just that was, like, projectiles or some other stuff can just block your attack from doing the full potential. But I guess that is better, that you land some hits than none of the hits. Because the two best bosses for Noble Ranger to fight compared to Space Ranger and Base Ranger are Tropic Woods and DDD. And then we got the Base Ranger. Base Ranger does good damage on Charge Shot. It charges just as fast as Noble Ranger. The only problem when it comes to Base Ranger and the Space Ranger is pretty mediocre to garbage Pierce on their Big Shot. And like I mentioned earlier, doesn't do so hot against against Tropic Woods or DDD, because if you want to get an early shot in at them, whatever was it, the coconuts and Gordo bars, just say nope and just kick them out. Simple as that. After that, we got Meta Knight Sword. Meta Knight Sword's actually pretty good. It's got the same. It's pretty much base sword. If you have sword beams for projectiles, you have a longer spin slash and a lingering spin slash, so that's damage. But the main thing that puts it up here is upper caliber. When you do the sword slide upward slash combo or whatever with the Meta Knight Sword, instead of like just going up, you do the upper caliber move that Meta Knight can do, and it stays in the air for a while, and it actually does a pretty serious chunk of damage. And that's actually probably the main reason why this is up here, because like it's also safer to fight stuff like Orb Phase. It's safer to fight stuff like Orb Phase, what's it called? Chaos Ephelis during the Fireball phase. Since you don't risk just landing on the Fireball right off the bat. And then last but not least, we got Toy Hammer. Toy Hammer, I talked about how good Base Hammer was, and Toy Hammer is just that, but better. Really, if you don't include Mask Hammer, if you don't include Mask Hammer, Toy Hammer is literally easily the best hammer. It's got the fastest moves. It's got just as much power as Wild Hammer for some reason. Like, Kirby can just take over a world with a squeaky toy if he wanted to. The only reason why it's not unironically broken as hell is mainly because, like, this is more of a personal thing, but I don't like its aerial attacks or its neutral attacks, because, like, multi-hits don't do that much damage. That's the reason why Hammer... When I fight mid-bosses during the Hammer video, Hammer actually could not one-shot mid-bosses with Hammer Flip. Mask Hammer, I mean. Mask Hammer couldn't do it. Because it's a multi-hit, the first hit, it's a big hit, but the first hit went into desperation instead of straight up one-shotting them. So multi-hits are not a good thing if you want to one-shot bosses. But other than that, though, this is an almost perfect ability. But yeah, this is the tier list. I'm kind of curious to hear what everyone else thinks, because everyone has their own opinions. But like I said, just to specify again, this is a tier list based on my opinions on how every ability does in the Ultimate Cup C specifically. So yeah.